So I'm pleased to be here, and we'll start with some prayers. And I'm going to do them in English. And I'm more familiar with the Tibetan, so I might not even be able to read them in English as well. So bear with me, but I think you can. So can you bring up the prayers? Thank you. Great Vajradhara, Talo, Naro, Marpa, Milarepa, the Dharma Lord, Gampopa, knower of the 3 times, Karmapa, and the lineage holders of the elder 4 and the younger 8. The Drikung, Saglung, Tsalpa, Glorious Drukpa, and so forth, who have gained mastery of the profound path. O Kagyu Gurus, heed my prayer, your lineage I uphold. O Kagyu Gurus, heed my prayer, your lineage I uphold. Please bless me so that I may adopt your ways of liberation, just as revulsions taught to be the leg of meditation. This meditator does not cling to any food or wealth and severs all the ties that bind me to this present life. Please bless me to be unattached to honor or to gain, just as devotions taught to be the head of meditation continually. This meditator supplicates the Guru, who opens a doorway to the trove of pith instructions. Please bless me so that the uncontrived devotion may well forth. As non-distractions taught to be the core of meditation, this meditator just remains, not altering at all, the fresh and pristine essence of whatever thoughts occur. Please bless me to be free from the thinking there's a meditation. Just as it's taught, the essence of all thoughts is Dharmachakra, nothing at all, and yet arising in all ways, appearing for this meditator as unceasing play. Bless me to know samsara and nirvana are not two. In all my future lives, may I never be apart from the authentic gurus and embrace the Dharma's glory. May I perfect the qualities of all the paths and levels. May I swiftly realize the state of Vajradhara. Until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the noble Sangha. Through the merit of accomplishing the 6 perfections, may I achieve awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. Until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the noble Sangha. Through the merit of accomplishing the 6 perfections, may I achieve awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. Until I reach enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the noble Sangha. Through the merit of accomplishing the 6 perfections, may I achieve awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings gain happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings experience great joy, free from suffering. May all beings come to rest in the great equanimity, having the same great love for all. May all beings gain happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings experience great joy, free from suffering. May all beings come to rest in the great equanimity, having the same great love for all. May all beings gain happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings experience great joy, free from suffering. May all beings come to rest in the great equanimity, having the same great love for all. Thank you, Yonten, for helping with that. Well, as I read those in English, I thought of a lot of parts of those prayers that are very appropriate for tonight's talk on the guru-student relationship. The first thing that came to mind is that in Mahayana and the foundation level, we want to attain Buddhahood. And at the Vajrayana level, we want to attain the state of Dorje Chang. So that's a difference right off the bat. Now, I thought that I would start here by going over, and I'm following the last part on Vajrayana of Dharma paths. I'm trying to follow that for this talk. And there are different terms that Rinpoche uses for the Vajrayana. And so I thought I would start out with that there is the Vajrayana, Tantrayana, fruition vehicle, and secret mantrayana. And basically, they all mean the same thing. Don't be confused by different names. Yana means vehicle or path, just like Mahayana. Vajra, that symbolizes the indestructible quality of the true nature of mind. And the Vajra also is symbolic of a lightning bolt. And the idea is that nothing overcomes a lightning bolt, that this awakened mind will overcome all obstacles and defilements. Now, Tantra, that refers to root texts of the Vajrayana and the system of meditation used in Vajrayana. Whereas with the Mahayana and Hinayana, we have the sutras. Fruition vehicle now. What this is derived from is that first of all, the Vajrayana, you might say, is the fruition of practicing the foundation level and then the Mahayana level. That these are graduated and you do one first and then the second next, the Mahayana, and then building on that, you do the Vajrayana. Sometimes through KTD and the KTCs, it isn't all that obvious because you might start doing Chenrezi fairly early on your Dharma path. So it isn't always this precise. Another reason why it's called the fruition vehicle is that we are in the Vajrayana working with these various profound qualities of enlightened beings that are the fruition of the path. You could say the goal is the path in Vajrayana, since we're frequently visualizing ourselves as an enlightened being. Like when we're doing Chenrezi, we visualize Chenrezi first over our head, and then during the mantra, we visualize ourselves as Chenrezi. And then finally, there is this idea of secret mantrayana. And it is self-secret, and I'm going to be going into this in more detail. But basically, it is usually the case that the practitioner does not see various Vajrayana teachings, does not understand them, even if they receive them, because of this self-secret aspect, that you have to be ready for the teachings before you really can understand what is being transmitted in the teaching. This can happen with Mahayana or even foundation level. If you read a book and then 2 years later, a year later, come back and read it again, it's common to see more in the book the second time through than the first time in the book, because you have grown, your wisdom has developed, your mind has settled down, and you're seeing more clearly. And so the secret mantrayana is like that, but it's much, you might say, it's a bigger factor, this self-secret aspect. So the practitioner of Vajrayana has to be, you might say, a special person too. Not in, oh, I'm special, but we have to have special qualities that we need a certain advancement in our spiritual practice. We need, in Khenpo Kartar's words, a great amount of diligence. We need to have intelligence, devotion, courage, and positive karma. And he also mentions profound wisdom. So this is important, that the Vajrayana path is very powerful, but it is not for everyone. That some, I've mentioned self-secret, sometimes teachings are kept secret, you might say, for the protection of the people that are not going to understand them. And I know that there used to be transcripts of the 10-day teachings that Rinpoche gave at KTD that had a certain level of restriction on them because they were about Vajrayana teachings. So part of the self-secret is there, or the secret is that you want to protect people from hearing these and then getting the wrong idea. And if a person gets the wrong idea about Vajrayana teachings, it can just create greater confusion, greater problems, and so forth. And now it was mentioned that I am a retired prison chaplain. Part of my job as prison chaplain was to okay or not okay books, religious books that inmates would buy or have sent in. And I became aware very quickly that there is a lot of, I'm just going to say, stuff out there that is very inauthentic and teaches very bizarre things, but passes for religious. There's a lot of things that came to my attention that had been heavily borrowed from Buddhism and even Tibetan Buddhism, and were totally out of context. So this is why we need to have a relationship with a living teacher and a close relationship with a living teacher, that there is so much that we could go to on the internet or to, shall we say, false gurus and really get very confused, go in a very negative direction, and end up in our next place in our next life in a very unpleasant place. And in the meanwhile, cause a lot of confusion while we still are alive, and perhaps cause a lot of pain and suffering for other people. So this is kind of a warning about how you want to have a close relationship with a teacher when you are practicing Vajrayana. Now, with that warning, Rinpoche, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, also has said that Chenrezig is harmless. So if you haven't had an empowerment, uh, don't do it by yourself, but it's fine to do it with a group. And I believe that doing Chenrezig, chanting it online with a group, is fine. But if you haven't had the empowerment, do not practice even Chenrezig by yourself at home. The teachings of Vajrayana, they start with teachings that Shakyamuni Buddha gave, and he gave these towards the end of his life. He had to, you might say, bring students up. When he started up, there were no Buddhists. So you start up with foundation level teachings, and then as your students start understanding the foundation level, then he introduced Mahayana teachings and teachings on the Heart Sutra and so forth. And then as his students, at least some of them, developed more and more, eventually he gave teachings on Vajrayana. Now, to distinguish between these different levels on the foundation vehicle, you start by taking refuge. There's a lot of outer discipline. Outer discipline is very strict. You're concerned about yourself more than you are other people, and that's why you follow outer discipline. You want to avoid being attached to food, clothing, other people, and so forth. The teachings are the Four Noble Truths, the Five Skandhas, the 12 Links of Interdependence, and so forth. The Mahayana then is the core of that is bodhicitta, both aspiration and perseverance, bodhicitta, and then ultimate bodhicitta. And there are bodhisattva vows and commitments, and you do your best to live up to them. And if you can't, then you do purification and amend these. Now, on the Vajrayana path, this is more profound than the other two yanas. But again, it depends on what you learn and practice on the other two yanas. That in the Hinayana and Mahayana, you take refuge in the three jewels. and you attain Buddhahood. In the Vajrayana, the ultimate nature is expressed by the three roots, or the three sources, which is the Guru, the Yidam, and the Dharma protector. And the fruition is attaining the state of Vajradhara, as I mentioned. So the Guru is the root of blessings and the root of transmission of abilities. Blessings could be described as the power of Dharma. I have heard it translated to engulf in splendor or wave of splendor. And the blessings allow you to experience this essence, the nature of your mind, at least getting a glimpse of it. Now, the yidams are the roots of spiritual powers. And the yidam is the deity that you are practicing. So if you're practicing Chenrezi, Chenrezi is the yidam. If you're doing White Tara is the yidam. And so the yidam that you are practicing is the root of spiritual powers. The third root is the protectors, and they are the root of the activities to be accomplished. They would be the dakas and dakinis. So by meditating on these three roots, we are able to touch or have a relationship with this level of the pure dimension in our meditation. And now it's important to realize that meditation does not mean sitting meditation. We are meditating when we are chanting. We're chanting Chenrezi. We're meditating when we are doing a mantra repetition and a visualization. This is just a different type of meditation. So don't confuse shamatha meditation with meditation in Vajrayana. Now, the Vajrayana path is very powerful. And the reason why we are practicing Vajrayana is that we want to attain realization quickly, relatively quickly, that we want to attain the state of Vajradhara, or again, another way is the realization of a Buddha. And that the Vajrayana has the ability to lead us to that realization much more quickly than on the Mahayana path and the foundation level path. And it is because of the richness of the methods that are in Vajrayana that there are so many very, very powerful, profound methods that can be used. And then you have the power and the greatness of the practitioner. Like I said, it takes a special person to be a Vajrayana practitioner. You have to be willing to really spend some time practicing and be diligent about it, and so forth. Khenpo Rinpoche made this comparison one time of the three yanas, that all three of them we are trying to unearth or dig out a precious jewel that is buried in the earth. And that's the metaphor for our mind, the essence of our mind. And that with the foundation level, we have our hands and our fingers, our fingernails and arms, and we're digging that precious jewel out of the earth. With Mahayana, we have a pick and a shovel. And so you can dig deeper and dig much more quickly with that. With Vajrayana, you have dynamite and a bulldozer. So this gives you an idea of the power, the difference in power, and also the difference in speed of digging out and unearthing that jewel that is our enlightened, always been pure mind. Again, it's important to remember we're not getting this mind from outside of ourselves. We're getting help from outside of ourselves to unearth it ourselves. So what eventually reaches fruition is not something that we have never had. It's always been there. It's just that we have never spent the effort to uncover it completely. So now to go into this about the what makes it more profound in more detail, I mentioned the richness of method, the power of the methods, and the greatness of the practitioner. So first, the richness of the methods, that visualizing ourselves as an enlightened being is one of the methods. It's very direct. We may not believe that we are an enlightened being, but we start by visualizing ourselves as an enlightened being. And we look at the outer environment as pure. And we can also apply these methods to transform our existing emotional patterns, which need to be transformed. So there is a psychology, I call it Buddhist psychology, that's involved here. And these methods elevate us, they uplift us, they bring us to a higher psychological state, if you want to use a Western term. And that they relatively quickly transform our neurotic, self-centered patterns. Now, the second point, it is, Dharma is more profound. Vajrayana Dharma is more profound because it's surprisingly easy that you can experience this awakened state of mind, this primordial wisdom, within one lifetime. It is possible. It might not be all that common to experience it in one lifetime, but certainly you can experience it in a few lifetimes. And there are many examples of Tibetan Rinpoches who have attained a high level of realization, and then when they die, they come back and continue to guide beings out of samsara and to give Vajrayana teachings. The third is that the Dharma is more profound because of the practitioner of the Vajrayana. So here are some characteristics of a good Vajrayana practitioner. that he has or she has devotion to the Guru. And devotion, in a very simple definition of devotion, is wanting to be like the Guru, which is very different than wanting to have something, some quality that the Guru has, but really not wanting to be like the Guru. The second point is the student must possess a great deal of courage, as well as wisdom and intelligence, that it takes courage to practice Vajrayana. That part of it is that you need to open up to receive the blessings of the Guru. You need to open up to receive the teachings of the Guru. And it's frightening to open up, to let down your guard, to be willing to change. Another point is the student must appreciate and understand the teachings and apply them correctly. And part of this goes back to this idea of self-secret. Now, the student must have confidence as well as devotion. That there is a different type of devotion here, and it is devotion to the methods, not just the Guru, but to the methods that are used in Vajrayana, and confidence in them, confidence in oneself and the workability of one's mind, and that the practice will work. And another part of this is that there's no turning back once you start on Vajrayana. If you really start on Vajrayana, you can't get to a point and say, oh, I made a mistake. I want to be Mahayana instead. And dropping it. You can't, you can do that, but you can't do that. And so it is a very profound, powerful practice, the Vajrayana path. And of course, this is what the Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, where he was leading most of his students. I attended the first 10-day teaching that Rinpoche gave, and I was very surprised at this 10-day teaching because it was on the profound inner meaning. And my understanding is this was the first in-depth Vajrayana teaching that he had given. And later, I'm not sure when, it might have been in 3-year retreat, he said that the reason he gave that teaching and started giving Vajrayana teachings was he wanted to attract people to the possibility of doing a 3-year retreat. You might say he wanted to magnetize people, and well, he magnetized me and a few other people. Lama Tsultrim was in the retreat that I did and was associated with all of them after that. And so Lama Tsultrim really became magnetized. But the point is that at this level, it requires a diligence. You might have to travel to receive teachings. Nowadays, people go to Zoom instead of getting on a plane or getting in a car, but it's good to spend some time having to overcome difficulties. And Rinpoche once told a story about a servant woman at the time of the Buddha. And the Buddha was coming to her area, and she was so enthusiastic about attending this teaching of the Buddha. But of course, she was a servant, and the woman that she was a servant to brought her to the teaching, but then said, "Oh, I left something at home, go get it for me." And so she went home and got it and brought it back. And then the woman said, "Well, there was something else that I didn't bring that I need." Anyway, the servant girl never got to see the Buddha and hear the teachings, and she was very disappointed. But Rinpoche said because of her motivation, her pure motivation, that she was born in her next lifetime a queen in a land that did not have Buddhism, and she invited Buddhist teachers to the land and introduced many people to Buddhism. And so that it is good to encounter difficulties if you to receive teachings, and especially the Vajrayana teachings, because they are so powerful. Then it's good to reflect on them, contemplate them, chew on them. It's great to be hungry for the teachings that, and it's excellent to do whatever is necessary to understand and appreciate these teachings. So once we have, you might say, been prepared through hearing, understanding, contemplating, and so forth, then there is what is called transmission or an empowerment or an initiation. Abhisheka is another name. And so Rinpoche talks about there being basically two different levels of transmission. And the best students, it's called the empowerment of meaning. And this is where the transmission and the realization happen simultaneously. And in Dharma Paths, he mentions the student-teacher relationship with Talopa and Naropa. But there's similar situation with Marpa and Milarepa and so forth, that these very, very, you might say, best level students, when they finally do receive the transmission, they get it right away. Talopa slapped Naropa with a slipper, and Naropa got it. Now, I will say this, that I had a student once that started reading these biographies, and after that, he really backed off because he was expecting me to treat him the same way. And I guarantee you, you're not at that level, and I'm not at that level, so that's not going to happen. So that brings up the empowerment of skillful means, which even Rinpoche said, that's us. And in his humility, he said that a number of times in this section that I've had so many empowerments, got bumped on the head so many times by bumpas and so forth. I think that's why I'm bald, and it's had no effect on me whatsoever. So the empowerment of skillful means is where you receive the empowerment, and then this gives you permission to practice a particular deity. Now, to go back to the empowerment of meaning, I'm just kind of introducing these two, that this is mentioned in Dharma Paths, that the Dharma king Indra Bhuti in India asked the Buddha to give him empowerment so that he could attain realization without having to give up his position as a king, without having to give up his queen, his ministers, and so forth. And the king was prepared and mentally ripe, and the situation was ripe for this. And so the Buddha gave him a empowerment of meaning. This could also be called liberation at hearing. So when the empowerment was being transmitted, the king and many of his subjects and ministers and so forth experienced the awakened state of mind. And so Rinpoche said that this is a bit like a spark that's ready to burst into flame, that they experience this breakthrough, something completely new. And so that many people realize the true essence of the nature of their mind and the nature of outer phenomena. To go into this type of empowerment in more detail, and it is for these same factors are worked with the skillful means empowerment, but it's lower. But you recognize the 5 poisons that are, they're seen as the 5 Buddhas or the 5 wisdom bodies. And the outer phenomenal world, the 5 elements are recognized as the 5 female Buddha consorts, and so on and so forth. In other words, you see the inner and the outer world as being pure. The 5 poisons are, of course, desire and attachment, aversion and anger, indifference and ignorance, jealousy and pride. Now, the empowerment of skillful means, this is gradual. The empowerment is going to be related to a particular deity and a particular enlightened style. Chenrezig is the embodiment of the compassion of all enlightened Buddhas and enlightened beings. Tara protects from fear and so forth. The empowerment is going to be related to a particular practice, and you need to get instruction on how to do the practice along with the empowerment. And along with that, it is traditional to get a reading transmission where the text is read, usually quite quickly. Lama Karma is excellent at reading transmissions. He can, I think, read faster than just about anybody. Although now that I think about it, Lama Tsultrim came and read the complete works of Dharmachakra just before Rinpoche's parinirvana, and I was very impressed with how quickly he could read. Anyway, this reading transmission, which again passed on blessings to the person that hears them. So you need the empowerment of reading transmission and then instructions on how to do the practice. And then you are going to be working with the mandala of that deity, visualizing that deity, and then reciting mantra. And each of the deities' mandalas are going to be slightly different. What comes to my mind when I think of mandala is the medicine Buddha's mandala is quite complicated compared to Chenrezi and Amitabha, but they're all different. And then all of this is going to be working with our psychological makeup from both a neurotic viewpoint and from the enlightened viewpoint. And this is why we do different practices and have different yidams, that each of us have, you might say, our own neurotic style, and what we need might be a particular yidam. We need to practice that particular yidam to help purify certain negative patterns that we have, or to bring out some of our positive qualities. And the two aren't necessarily separate. So again, the person that is doing this work, the practitioner, is working with very profound, skillful means, and needs to be open, needs to be diligent, intelligent. And by doing this, they can attain this awakened state in one mind, in one lifetime, excuse me. I have a little bit more about self-secret. And what happens as you practice is sometimes, or when you receive an empowerment, is sometimes you start seeing things that you never saw before, or things look different than they did before. That there are so many different ways of seeing the ourselves, seeing the world, seeing other people, and so forth. But as we travel the path of Vajrayana, we start seeing more and more and more, and developing a much deeper understanding. In Dharma paths, Rinpoche, as I mentioned, talks about Talopa and Naropa's relationship. To kind of sum it up, Naropa was following Talopa. He wanted to receive teachings from Talopa. He had, you might say, he was driven by becoming Talopa's student and receiving his teachings, his blessings, and attaining enlightenment. And Talopa had him do a number of things that seemed, you might even say, bizarre, like going to a wedding ceremony and bringing back food for Talopa, and then telling him to go back and get more, which of course meant that what was customary in India at this time, if you came back a second time, you were persona non grata, and he would be beaten. And he knowingly, Talopa told Naropa to go back a second time, and Naropa willingly went and, of course, got beaten. Another time, Talopa told Naropa to jump off a cliff, and he did. And of course, he was at the bottom of the cliff now, broken, in extreme pain, and Talopa, of course, healed him. But this happened over and over and over again in this guru-student relationship. Again, these are for the very best students, and none of you are going to be told to jump off a cliff. So these are meant more for inspiration and example. But the point is that you are going to be having experiences that might be unpleasant and that ordinarily you might want to back off and say, oh, I need to take a time out here. And that the diligent keep on going. It may be you need to talk to your guru about the situation. And it's good to do that. But you do not want to just back off and say, well, I need to take a break. So to go on here, when we have this this empowerment of skillful means or this blessing empowerment, and this can be done, it usually is done in a formal setting in a shrine room. And the idea is that we have this, the sacredness of the method, and we have our own nature, which also is sacred from the Vajrayana point of view, that there is the meeting of these two. And there's a gradual, Rinpoche used the word warming, that we gradually transform as we continue to do these practices after an empowerment. The empowerment, as I said, gives us permission to do the practice by ourselves, alone, at home, in retreat, and so forth. And we are now, you might say, pointed in the direction of fruition. Rinpoche said that when the method is presented to us, that fruition is also presented to us. That we have been given what we needed to attain fruition, and that we just need to provide the inspiration, the diligence, and so forth. We need to identify ourselves with the sanity of the practice. I like that word. I sometimes think that the Buddha turned psychotherapy into a religion. That I like to, they frequently use the idea of the Four Noble Truths and a doctor telling you that you're sick. This is the cause of your illness. It's curable, and there's a path that leads to curing. And well, the Buddha was talking about our mind. Isn't that what a psychiatrist does? Talks about your mind. If you go to a doctor, he's going to take your blood pressure, some blood tests, and if he's Chinese, check your pulses and da da da. Well, the Buddha was talking about our mind. So anyway, these practices involve an uplifted state of mind, seeing us as actually we are, which is an enlightened being. And we have a lot of trouble actually seeing ourselves as an enlightened being. Now, Rinpoche talks about the problems of not having a close relationship with the guru and trying to do these practices by yourself. I kind of went over this already, that it's really easy to go in the wrong direction, and if nothing else, waste your time and possibly, maybe even probably going in the wrong direction. So you again need to have this close relationship with a teacher. I know from my own experience that it was difficult at first to have this close relationship with a teacher, even someone as kind as Khenpo Karta Rinpoche. But you need to have this to stay going the right direction. A teacher will let you know if you are making a mistake, if you're going in even a little bit off of the path and so forth. And a book won't tell you that. Your friends won't tell you that usually, and so forth. Now, Rinpoche then talks about yogis. And there are open yogis and there are hidden yogis. And an open yogi, they will manifest in very bizarre ways. In this chapter or this section on Vajrayana and the guru student relationship, he talks about Khenpo Gangshar, who behaved in very bizarre ways just before the Chinese invaded. Chogyam Trungpa was a student of Khenpo Gangshar. And Gangshar is used in the Mahamudra lineage supplication, and I have very limited Tibetan knowledge, but I believe it means whatever arises, which gives you an idea about Khenpo Gangshar, that he would behave in very outrageous and bizarre behavior. And so open yogis are like this. Rinpoche described them as manifesting in the form of harukas or wrathful deities, and behaving in very unconventional ways, but at the same time giving very, very profound Vajrayana teachings. I'm not going to go into this too much more, but the point being that not all people that reach fruition on the Vajrayana path manifest like Khenpo Karta Rinpoche. And I remember when great teachers like Tai Situ Rinpoche came into our retreat, they would say Khenpo Rinpoche is a scholar and a yogi. Khenpo Rinpoche is what is called a hidden yogi. And so these are beings that manifest as bodhisattvas, or even ordinary people, or as monks and nuns, that they follow the discipline of the foundation level or the Mahayana level, and they can give teachings, but they behave in very conventional ways. Now, one thing that we are extremely fortunate about, and that is that the Vajrayana path is not a myth. It's not a legend. It's not about something that happened 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, that it continues in the present, that there is an unbroken lineage to the present time. So it is alive and it's available, it's fresh, it's direct. We had Lama Karma visiting my center about a month ago, and he gave a Chenrezig empowerment, and he received that empowerment. I'm not sure who, but whoever he received that empowerment from then received it from another person, and these empowerments are passed on from teacher to student. And if you go back the other direction, they go way back to the Buddha. So this lineage is alive. The lineage is important. That's why we chant the Mahamudra lineage supplication. Now that is about the Mahamudra lineage. When you do White Tara, there's a lineage supplication that you do at the beginning before you get into the practice. And with all these Vajrayana practices, if there's enough room, there will be a lineage that is chanted before you do the practice. So there are many people that are available today that we can receive empowerments from, instructions on how to do the practice, reading transmissions, and so forth. Now, the next point is the Samaya vows of Vajrayana. And these are very strong commitments. It's a very powerful path, the Vajrayana, and so the commitments are quite strong. The first commitment is to practice rather than, you might say, think about practice. That it's important to practice and to practice regularly. And then there's this commitment to the teacher or to the guru. And here are 4 things that violate samaya with your guru: to criticize your teacher, your guru, to think that you are more realized than your guru, to think that the guru made a mistake, and to think that you could have said or done something better than your guru did. So these are pretty strong commitments. Again, you want to be careful who you choose as a guru, that this is not something to be taken lightly. You want to examine the guru closely before becoming a student of the guru. I felt I was extremely fortunate in that I met Khenpo Karta Rinpoche very early on in my involvement with Buddhism, and have had, of course, nothing but gratitude towards having him as my teacher. But you, because of this samaya commitment, you do want to be careful who you choose as a teacher. I also asked Rinpoche about 2 years before his parinirvana in an interview I had with him, who should I go to after you are gone? And he said, well, Gyalwang Karmapa will send somebody, and he will be much better than me. And I immediately thought, No, whoever comes will not be better than you. But again, it's not good to argue with your guru, so I said nothing. But if you look at who are the teachers at KTD, Karmapa sent Khenpo Ujun, Khenpo Sanjay, and Khenpo Tenhyön. So you have three gurus to choose from. And that is, let me see what time it is. This is most of what I wanted to cover. I guess it would be good to talk about the creation and completion stages of Vajrayana practice. So in the creation stage, we develop a visualization of the deity, the mandala, the situation, and then various things happen there. You might emanate offering goddesses and offerings made. You might have visualize the actual deity coming from its pure land and then merging into you, and so forth. And then there's a mantra repetition with a visualization of various things happening. And all of this is working with our neurotic pattern. And we are creating this sacred world, purifying our neurotic habits and patterns and developing this sacred outlook. And as we practice over time, we start out usually with the Yidam being separate from us. The Chenrezi is separate from us. He's somewhere out there, and we're supplicating him, and on and on and on. But as we practice more over the years, we come to realize that we are Chenrezi, that we've kind of cut through the duality of Chenrezi out there, and I'm here, and I'm not Chenrezi. I'm just kind of pretending that I'm Chenrezi, and I'm not doing a very good job of pretending that I'm Chenrezi. That by repetition, gradually, this dualistic view becomes weaker and weaker and weaker, and we start seeing this sacred outlook more. The completion part of these practices is when you dissolve the visualization and you rest without beckoning the future or digging up the past, doing the best that you can to rest and you could say objectless shamatha, where you really don't have a visualization. You're not trying to have a visualization. You're just resting. And then as soon as a thought arises, you visualize yourself as a deity again. And then in the case of Chenrezi, you chant that the world is pure. All sentient beings are seen as a deity. All sound is the sound of Chenrezi's mantra, and so forth. And then you go back from post-meditation into the world, trying to remind yourself that you are Chenrezi and that the world is sacred. So with that, I think I have covered what I wanted to cover today. It is my aspiration that you all find this beneficial. And I guess we can do the concluding prayers. Karmapa, embodiment of the compassion of all Buddhas. Karmapa, union of the activity of all Buddhas. Karmapa, empowered as a regent of all Buddhas. Orgyan Drodal Trinle, may your life be long. By this merit, may we obtain omniscience, defeat the enemy wrongdoing, and free all wanderers soon from the ocean of existence, churned by great waves of birth, age, sickness, and death. I fully dedicate all this virtue, following in my training the knowledge of the warrior Manjushri, and in the same way that of Samantabhadra and all others. Through the inspiration of the attainment of the Buddha's Trikaya, of the unchanging truth of suchness, and of the undivided intent of the Sangha, may these aspirations be fulfilled as they were made. Karmapa, you who are the activity of all Buddhas, victorious over the four Maras. May your teachings, the essence of Dharma, continuously spread to the far limits of all directions, greatly increase, and always flourish auspiciously. Yeah. Good night.